back with T.N.T. Garage, mainly because I work a lot being a truck driver. I drive all across eastern side of the country. And being in Wisconsin in wintertime, this garage isn't heated, so I just really didn't want to freeze out here. In the last few days, we went from freezing to Africa, went right past spring, so we got a nice 70-degree day out. We're finally going to get back on this car. By the end of this video, the motor and trans will be in the car, but the first things we're going to address is a little bit of wiring, getting the stock harnesses out, but keeping the chassis harness on the car, and we're going to show you what that's going on next. Alright guys, here's what we're going to attack today. If you remember, I think the last video I did was this whole rat's nest of the cluster harness for the car. Of course, you got the connector there. This is going to be something we're going to address today for sure, is getting this bulkheaded through the firewall, and of course take care of this well, you know, shocking porcupine. If we were to hook it up to power, burn the car down, take care of that. So first thing I'm going to start with is get this relay out of here, and then of course the ESC, the electronic spark control's got to get out of my way to where we can dig down to the main harness here. Now this is also engine harness, because the body harness travels alongside the subframe down here and goes into the firewall right next to the steering shaft. There you go. And so that's going to stay with the car, but we can get rid of this, and we're going to go over to the other side, and we're going to get rid of this part of the harness that obviously is a whole lot of stuff going on that we don't need. This, however, not quite as straightforward. She goes down through the fender, and you look inside there, you can see where it bulkheads through the side of the car. So we're going to pull that out as well, because right now there's nothing on this harness that we need for this car to function, and I'll show you why. Because the one thing I did when I pulled this motor out is I kept all of the electrical. So we have everything we need for this truck to run, which means I can eliminate the fuel pump relay, everything out of this car. It's all going to be right there. The computers with this, we're going to have the electronic cruise that will work. Computers right here, and pretty much just be a standalone system. And this will allow me into the future to upgrade to an LS style computer using this harness. Of course, if I was going to run a regular multi-point, change this out, wire it to injectors. But this setup will work for anything I'm going to do in the future, short of super high performance where, you know, you got to end up getting a Holly system. So I'm going to take a quick second, and I'm going to go ahead and see what it takes to get this harness out of here after I pull these off. Alright, as you can see, we got the electronic spark control module and its bracket. 2 relays out, just 2 bolts that hold it there, 10 millimeter. You just unbolt it, do whatever. And here is the main, well, I call it distribution block. And what I'm going to end up doing is pulling these studs out, letting that fall through the firewall. And what I'm looking at here is, we take this end, which of course is caught on the damn door handle, and now the mirror. You can see the sheer size of that versus that. So we're going to have to enlarge the hole a little bit, but that's all right, because we need all this stuff out in the engine compartment anyway, for other little duties. Now, what I discovered with pulling this harness out is most of it is engine control associated. However, in true GM fashion, they just loomed everything together. So I'm not going to get rid of this harness entirely. Or if you look at the bulkhead connector, this side, engine control, this side, obviously controls headlights, fog lights, stuff like that. So we're going to keep that. And that's part of the reason why I left this such a mess, because we got plenty of powers and ins and outs and switched circuits that we could still run the lights, still eliminate this harness, but we'll have an in and an out on that. So The factory stuff of the car will go through that, but just operate as normally. Once we get it all apart, I'm just kind of cleaning up the engine bay right now to know where we stand. So let's go over the other side and see just what kind of a bear it is to get this harness out. Oh, and also I pulled the old cruise servo. Figured to show you guys that. Just goes down here, one bolt right there. Not a whole lot holding it in, but at least GM did something somewhat easy. So we're gonna go ahead and probably finish pulling this inner fender well out so I can get to that a little easier. So we'll check in a second. Well, we made a little progress here. We got the entire old TPI harness out, and that is a lot. One thing I did notice though, and it's a good thing that I did decide to pull this harness out so I can correct the problem before it gets to be really bad. You can see where it bulkheaded through here. It's gotten kind of soft, especially from where the rocker started rotting out and got the corner of the floor here. So we're going to take care of that. I'm probably, when I repair it, just going to plate this shut, maybe put a hole in for a grommet to run some wiring, but we'll address that whole issue there. The way you do pull the harness out is you got to come inside the car. Hopefully yours isn't this messy. And you take this kick panel off, and the harness comes through here, goes up here, of course, these connectors, and your PCM. Now, to get it out, I'll show you here. There's this little clip. I got the boy on header duty. He's going to pull the old truck headers off so we can drop the motor in. So here's where it bulkheads into the car. Of course, this is the PCM side, and this little clip here, you could see, just follows right in that channel, and that's what holds all that into the car. So you go inside the car, pull that kick panel, and then just slide that up and off to gain access to push it through. And the harness will fit through the hole, and to pull it up through the fender, everything does fit. You don't have to hack or pull the fender. Everything will come right through that hole with just a little patience. You'll fight the side of the blower motor housing, but you'll be able to get it out. And of course, there's ground up here that went with that harness, and then a couple relays, and we don't have to worry about those anymore. So my next step under the hood, I'm going to worry about this a little later. I'm going to pull these fuel lines off. These here, because you can see where they run alongside the subframe, they're starting to get a little crispy, and I don't want to run the risk of getting this entire project done using those fuel lines, thinking they're all right, and burning the thing to the ground. So we're going to pull the fuel lines out. I'm probably going to pull the brake line out here and just have it as a template to bend a new one up. Easy enough to do with the motor in the car. It's even easier now, but yeah, with what little time I actually have, I want to get some progress out of this. And you can see on this here Vortec that the fuel lines come up and into the plenum, and we're just going to use these fuel lines, which I'll probably cut them and flare them and all that from here back, and then just put some braided line in. It basically reline the whole car, because if it ain't running, you know, may as well get the brakes and line stuff taken out and get new ones put in. So I'm going to continue with this. Down to Harbor Freight and finally get myself a new floor jack. When you go to lift a car, after you start picking up, you can actually move the jack handle more than about that much to keep it raising up. So let's dig into this big thing. I'm going to grab me a screwdriver to get this open and show you what kind of quality Pittsburgh tools we have. And I mean that with no irony, of course. If it works, it works. It doesn't matter. There we go. And of course, I wanted a smaller one, but they were out of those, so I ended up getting a 3-ton. And I just couldn't justify getting an aluminum jack because, well, other than the Camaro, I have all trucks, so may as well get the right jack for the job. Important, follow these instructions before operating. All right. There we go. Oh, that's actually kind of impressive. Dual plunger on the back here. I kind of like that. You know, of course, this is a rapid pump, so you have the big bore and small bore. So that's what facilitates that. And there you go. Obviously, they got a little kicker in there, but we'll get this thing put together, get the car up in the air so I can get the rest of the fuel lines unbolted and get those pulled completely out of the car. He's still working on the headers. He's really close. And we'll get to start drop the motor in. Kind of show what we got going on over here. Of course, a couple of these header bolts can be quite a bugger. Oh, just because of the heat cycles and such. And of course, you know, they're all 3/8. Little bracket here he's going to pull off, and then this header will come right off. And then he's working on this one. He had a couple that were real stuck, asked for help, which there's nothing wrong with that. If you're afraid that you don't know what you're doing or not sure or don't want to get hurt, always ask for help. Don't be stubborn. Don't think you're the best at everything. Just always ask for help, and you can get anything done. That's what you want to teach them from a young age or anytime they try, because he's doing a fine job. So we're going to get this jack put together, get the car up, get the fuel lines out. Then there's not really a whole lot more to do. I do have to pull the oil filter adapter off that to get it in the car, but we'll address that here shortly. All right, we're getting ready to plop the motor in under the hood. I got all those lines loose. I still got to disconnect that side, but I want to get everything down in. Just make sure it fits before I go too far. Fuel lines can pull straight out now. Speedo cable, as you can see down there, that could come out. So, a little tech tip for you guys. If you don't have the yoke or a plug to put into your output here, just grab a grocery bag, garbage bag, wrap it in tape. That'll prevent you from spilling ATF all over the place. Now, the next problem, this was a 4-wheel drive truck motor. So it's on the Chevys with these 350s and the 4-wheel drives, they had this adapter that kicked it forward to avoid the diff. Now, it's just a 13mm bolt on the bottom side. Take that off, and of course you get rid of all your oil cooler lines here. So let's pop that off and try not to make a mess. Keyword is try, I suppose. Ooh, that's a slippery bugger. We got the other bolt here. So two. Oh, that one's a little tighter. Two 13mm bolts. As you can see. There we go. There's one. Long little bugger. And we'll have to work that one out with the ratchet. Now, there we go. We got her coming. Yeah. There. And that is your oil filter adapter. Now this brace bar, I'll probably just pop the Jesus clip out of here. E-clips, I call them Jesus clips, because anytime you try to pop them out and save them, they fly across them. Jesus! So that's why we call them Jesus clips. I'll pop them out, get the oil cooler lines off. And then as far as, these are all set up for regular filters. So you just get the regular adapter off any any small block Chevy, I'll probably pull the one off of the 305 that came out of the car, so we can go ahead and run a regular big canister filter off there. So we're just going to get this out of the way for now. Probably put a rag up in there to keep any debris from getting there. But one thing you definitely want to do going a 4-wheel drive truck, motor, anything that has that set up into a car or 2-wheel drive truck. Now the one thing I'm hoping, and my research says, the oil pan should clear the K-member. You look at the clamshells here and where that oil pan angles, I think we're going to have plenty of room to clear the K-member. So I guess we'll find out. We'll get those oil cooler lines off, and we'll get this big boy swung up into the car, finally. Well, so I spent about 0 effort trying to get those E-clips out, and yeah, that's quicker. So we're back on. There's one. Get this positioned up to where we can hack at the other one. There we go. I got oil all over my hands. Oh well. I think we got her. Come on. There we go. Good. Get these oil lines up in there. You don't need it draining everywhere. So, got that off. Next thing, stuff a rag up in there, swing her in the car. Well, as you can see, we're real close. We get the clamshells to slide over the motor mount there. One thing I noticed here is this Vortec cap. I'm going to have to take the cap off at the very least, because we're not looking at a whole lot of clearance back against the firewall until we get the motor in and more level, and then there should be plenty of room. But we're close. I had the starter hanging up on the K-member, but yeah, we're past her now. So that's how you replace the starter in a Camaro, by the way. You just pull the engine out, take the starter off, put the new starter on, put the engine back in. About the easiest way to do it. So we will catch up with you in a second. I'm going to go ahead and take the 2 screws out to get that cap out of the way. And this does look like a mess now, just all that there. But once we get her down, we can actually start laying out like where the PCM and the power distribution block and everything's going to go. So stay tuned. Well, we're getting there. I had to move a couple things, and now that I got the distributor cap out of the way, which you probably can't even see back there. There we go. Got plenty of room for distributor. I had to kind of just tweak the fuel lines forward, and then there was a bracket here holding the harness. So now I should be able to, I'm going to rejigger my chains, take the one off the back, move everything in the front, because I've got that trans on the jack, so it should just slide right in. Now, one thing I also wanted to say is here at T.N.T. Garage, we value your viewership, and we use high production methods on giving you the best content we can. So let's get to finish shoehorning this thing in. work. Must have wore him right out. Well, here we go. Now you guys know what it looks like to have a Vortec 350, all of it, in an F-body. Now, of course, a couple of things we're going to address, like I talked about in previous videos. The AC will not clear the hood, so that's got to go. So that pump's going to come off, probably get a smaller drop-down idler pulley or something in its place. The alternator looks like it'll clear. Yeah, I'm not seeing any huge issues. You look from the side, looking straight across. It's lower than this bottle, so we're good. Now, as far as everything else under here, to get the engine squeezed in, I ended up pulling the clamshells off. Just so I could get it dropped down. I'm running into something in the back, or maybe just everything under the car. You know, got to reroute some wiring or something, because there's big loom on top of the trans. So I just need to get the car up in the air, get under there and address that. Now, when it comes to our PCM and our power delivery, I think this is what we're going to do. Is there's the main connector there that's going to go in our modified harness, and then we'll go ahead and zip these legs off of this power bit distribution block, and it should nestle right down in there. It'll be nice and low once the legs are off, so everything's close right under the hood. The PCM, let me move the header out of the way. The PCM will probably build some sort of bracket, or possibly move the washer fluid bottle forward or something like that. Put the PCM here. That way that's ready to go. And then, of course, all our associated plugins. Now, my idea is for the induction, obviously we're not going to run it to the side. I mean, I could run it down here, have a cold air down there, but really, oh man, that's tight. Holy cow. Well, what my plan is once this is out of the way, I could probably put a different thermostat housing on it, and I want to run this straight forward here to go into the stock TPI air box, that dual kind of snorkel deal. So it's just going to come straight forward, and then of course have the mass airflow sitting right around here, and that should do it. We got plenty of clearance between the power steering pump and the power and steering box, so my measurements did work out. So you can run truck accessories on a car if you get rid of the AC compressor, and I'm going to try to figure out a way to chop that bracket and go back to the pancake style AC compressor that's sat lower, closer. They did make the serpentine setup once. I just don't know what the spacing would be. That's down the road. It's all about getting the car running. So I'm pretty happy that we got it in. There's still some work to do. I got to figure out where I want to put my trans cooler, and we got to figure out the fittings for the 4L80. So the big deal with a 4L80 is they have a fitting in the rear port that's threaded, and then it's got a long end on it. And if I could find it, I'd show you. But I mean, you guys can just look it up, really. But it's got that long end that goes in, and you need to have that fitting in order for everything to work right. So I found a set of banjo fittings that'll 90-degree me, so they'll just run alongside the tunnel instead of creating an interference. So I think we're gonna wrap her up right here today. Motors sitting in the car, transmissions up in the tunnel. I didn't hear any crunching or scraping, so far it fits all right. I got to get the car up in the air, actually get under it, and just run my hands around everything and make sure we're going to be good. But here we go. Finally, the Vortec 350 is in the F-body. Well, I'd like to thank you guys for watching another video of T.N.T. Garage. Slowly but surely, we're actually going to get this car done. This was a huge step today. I'd like to thank my son for helping me pull the headers off the motor while I was dicking with other stuff. It's always nice to get him involved in something like this, and might look like the hard part. It wasn't easy stuff in the 4L80 in the tunnel, but got some stuff figured out. Now we can work on the wiring and getting the motor mounts locked in and everything, and building trans cross member and a torque arm mount. But those will all be future videos, and we'll keep ticking at her when I have the time, when I'm able to get off the road and get back on it. So I'm gonna enjoy a cold drink and let my back not hurt anymore. So thanks again for watching. We're gonna see you next time.